everybody, and welcome back to Bearcat Update. I'm your host, Jason Holland, and today we'll be covering basketball's buzzer beater loss in Mankato, softball's week on the road, and baseball's trip to Oklahoma this weekend. Before we get into the action, make sure to take a second and subscribe to KNWT TV on YouTube. Don't forget to hit that bell to be notified the second that we post new content. Let's get it.
Left to right will take the handoff, and he's hitting to the backfield. Breaks loose from one would-be tackler around the corner right side to the 30, 25, sideline 20 to the 15, the 10, the 5, into the end zone. Touchdown Northwest. West, ball cast to the 19-yard.
The men's basketball season came to an end on Tuesday night. After battling through the first two rounds of the NCAA Tournament, it appeared all but certain that Northwest would once again appear in the Elite Eight. But as fate would have it, our Bearcats would fall on a heartbreaking buzzer beater. Minnesota State's Elijah Hayes Camp would be the hero for the Mavericks, as his only shot made on the night happened to be the game winner. The hardest part of sports is dealing with close losses. In back-to-back years, the Bearcats have suffered gut-wrenching defeats that still hurt us to this day. Despite the way that the season unfolded, we're all proud of this team and the way they battled through tremendous amounts of adversity through the year. The Bearcat Update team would like to congratulate the athletes and coaches who made us all proud all year long. This week, the Bearcat Beat is going to look a bit different. Rather than meet an athlete, we'll be meeting Wesley as he retells his experience covering the Bearcats in the NCAA Tournament. Take it away.
Hello, I'm Wesley Miller for Bearcat Update, and welcome to this week's edition of the Bearcat Beat. At home, you saw this. But as the managing editor for the Northwest Missourian, I was able to follow and cover the Central Region Tournament for Bearcat men's basketball in Mankato, Minnesota. I ate some great food, met some great people, and had an absolutely amazing experience. My journey started with a departure at 9 a.m. on Friday, the day before the start of the tournament. On the trip, we stopped at Hickory Park, and let me just tell you, that barbecue and ice cream are more than worth the stop. After arriving at our hotel in Mankato, we sort of just had to wait until Northwest's first game on Saturday, which ended as a 30-point blowout win over Southwest Minnesota State. I was quickly introduced to the remarkable facilities of Minnesota State, and I made sure to get a bird's eye view. Then, day 2 came, and the fun continued. As I covered the Bearcats' hard-fought 71-62 win over Minnesota Duluth on Sunday, I networked with incredible people, learning what teams they were a part of, what their perspectives were, and how they operated. And I just want to give a shout-out to everyone I met in Mankato. You all are some of the nicest people I've ever met. On day 3, there were no games to cover. Mondays are already bad enough, but that might have been the slowest one in my entire 22 years of life. However, I was able to interview some members of the team and do some writing in the time that I had. Then it was championship day on Tuesday, and you could feel it as soon as you walked into the arena's doors. This place soon became packed with over 4,500 fans. For reference, Northwest averages less than 1,500 per home game. And I was able to speak with one of those fans, a Bearcat and Blazer, to give you a first-hand perspective of what that atmosphere was like.
Us being there Saturday and Sunday, you know, the arena is quite nice. It's quite nice. And, you know, things were good, you know, watching Bearcat Nation show up, watching the fans, watching the players, parents, watching just people who generally love Northwest show up. It was something special.
Of course, as many Northwest fans likely know by now, the Bearcat season came to an end on a buzzer beater. But that doesn't matter to this Bearcat and Blazer.
Of course I would do it again, and I highly advise any student or any faculty member, like, people gotta understand is that a lot of, in the game of basketball, players feed off of energy. That's primarily where they feed off of.
The next morning, we left at 8 a.m. On our way to Maryville, we stopped at Jethro's Barbecue in Des Moines, Iowa, and that is definitely a place everyone should try. That was a small look into my coverage of Bearcat men's basketball this past weekend, and I love Mankato, but it is sure great to be back in Maryville. That's all for this week's edition of the Bearcat Beat. For Bearcat Update, I'm Wesley Miller.
Thanks, Wesley. Despite the heartbreaking loss in Mankato, we appreciate you lifting our spirits as we move to the future. A day after the heartbreaking loss to Minnesota State, we received great news. Head coach Ben McCollum is next up to be enshrined in the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame, rightfully joining legendary faces like former championship head coach Hank Strom. McCollum's resume speaks for itself. After coaching for 15 seasons, he has yet to accumulate even 100 losses, as well as leading the Bearcats to 4 national championships. Bearcat Update would like to offer our congratulations to our legendary head coach. Let's take a look back at another legendary Bearcat and fellow Missouri Sports Hall of Fame member, Ryland Milner. Take it away, Tayden.
For this week's episode in Bearcat sports history, let's take a break talking about football rivalries. Today, we're going back in time to talk about Mr. Bearcat himself, Ryland Taffy Milner. This story starts in 1929 when Ryland Milner first arrived in Maryville to study physical education and industrial arts. When Milner was a senior, he was captain of both the football and basketball team as quarterback and point guard, leading both teams to a conference championship. Compared to today, that's as if Mike Honnessy and Mitch Muscari were the same person. After Milner graduated from Northwest, he worked through the high school ranks to coach after Wilbur Stalkup gave the job and went back to Northwest. Ryland Milner would return to Northwest in 1937 as the head coach of the football team and assistant head coach of the basketball team. Then, in 1938, Milner would lead his football team to an undefeated season and a conference championship in 1939. And also, that same year, he would see the basketball team win a conference championship as assistant coach. Compared to today, it is the difficult task of being both Rich Wright and Xavier Kurth. In 1957, Milner would become director of athletics and would stay in the position until 1975, when he would retire. On December 16, 1988, Ryland Milner would be inducted into the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame, where his mentor Henry Iba will present him with a reward. Ryland Milner would pass away in 1999, but he would have a lasting legacy at Northwest. He would have a building named after him known as the Ryland Milner Complex, named in his honor. To this day, Northwest would use his phrase that Milner said, "Once a Bearcat, always a Bearcat." I'm Tayden Hensley from Bearcat Update.
Thanks, Tayden. The softball team traveled all over the country, and after concluding a homestand against Bemidji State, they would travel all the way to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. They would drop both games of the doubleheader against Augustana, with a total score between the two games of 2-23. The Bearcats were aiming to bounce back as they headed down to Wichita, Kansas to face the Newman Jets in yet another doubleheader. However, they got the pleasure of dealing the sweep this time as they would trounce the Jets by a total score between the two games of 15-3. Despite the momentum-building sweep, the Bearcats would drop both games of the series against 9th-ranked Central Oklahoma Broncos. The trip to Tahlequah, Oklahoma wasn't as fruitful as they had hoped, but they battled back against a formidable opponent and will be more prepared as they rest up and travel to Topeka on Friday. It's been a while since we caught up with Noah Cornelius and his journey with the disc golf team. So rather than tease you, we'll get right into it. Take it away, Jacob.
On this week's episode of Bogeys to Birdies, we're going to focus on approaching and putting. The better you can approach, the less you have to putt. So let's go figure it out.
There's a saying in disc golf that goes like this: you throw for show, but you putt for dough. This means that throwing far is fun, but putting is what makes or breaks a win for you. Since putting is so essential, one thing that makes putts easier is having a good approach game. Approaching is the shot where you're not necessarily trying to put it in the basket, but instead put it as close to the pin, leaving yourself with an easy putt. So today we went to play a casual round and not worry about score, but instead take some of the field work that we have done and put it to the test. After this tee shot on hole 4, Noah was left with a longer approach. On his initial attempt, he didn't swing it out wide enough to the right, which put him a little short and left of the basket. After talking to him about walking up to the shot at a different angle, he throws the same disc again, but this time a little bit wider, and as you can see, his second shot was a lot closer to the basket. He ends up making both putts, but he had to work a lot harder from one, and those are not always guaranteed makes. Some approaches are very easy and straightforward, but sometimes you can put yourself in a tricky situation, making it a lot harder and bringing in more factors. The wind is a big factor, as exposing the bottom of the disc allows it to get taken away further in one direction than you would want it to. If you can, you always want to be throwing a disc that fades towards whichever way the wind is blowing. Another factor is the slope of the ground. If you hit the ground on too steep of an angle, the disc will stand up and roll away, and if there is out of bounds near the basket, you want to avoid that at all costs. Matching the hillside or throwing into the hill is a great way to negate the roll-away potential. There are also a separate category of discs that tend to work better when trying to throw approaches. This category is usually labeled as the overstable approach disc. You notice the orange disc labeled zone that Noah throws a lot on these approaches, and that's because it has a reliable and predictable flight pattern that he can get used to throwing. These discs are usually on the slower side in the 3 to 4 speed range, which helps further limit any ground play. The higher speed you throw, the more ground play you will get. Sometimes a long jump putt, which is when you put more momentum behind a putting motion, can be used as an attempt to make the putt while also staying close to the basket. Other times you won't even need to approach the basket, as you throw good enough to where you are putting after your tee shot. Still, having a good approach game can help you scramble when you put yourself in the non-ideal spot. However, that will do it for this week's episode of Bogeys to Birdies. Make sure you tune in next week for more content.
Thanks, Jacob. The latest Intercollegiate Tennis Association rankings have placed the women's team at 32nd in the country, while the men snatched 33rd respectively. The women's team are 13-1 in dual action so far this spring, while the men are 8-4. Both teams have won 3 straight matches. Familiar face Andrea Zamuri has jumped to 32nd in the national rankings, while also tying for 8th in all-time single victories. The golf team participated in the Midwest Intercollegiate Invite on Tuesday, finishing 5th out of 15 total teams. Madeline Schlepfa finished in 9th place individually and the 5th of her career. The team finished with 3 players in the top 20 as the team shot just 40 shots over. We are always glad to catch up with our Bearcats, but just like they're on break, we'll be joining them, and we'll be right back to see if you have what it takes to be a second baseman and meet other members of the cheer team. Stick around.
Here at Tower Yearbook, we are a dedicated staff of photographers, designers, copywriters, and practicum students.
Our staff is a student-led, student-run media outlet, producing a book with over 300 pages. Be sure to pop out at any of our portrait or distribution events.
So stay tuned to our social media to see what's up.
For years, it has been Channel 8 News, the station that has kept the Northwest and Maryville community informed. Although the image has changed, the mission has not. It all happens here, every Monday at 9 a.m. on KNWT TV. This is Northwest News.
Welcome back to Bearcat Update. Bearcat baseball has been busy as they have been in and out of games all week. Starting off last Sunday, the Bearcats would lose a close game to Missouri Western Griffins with a score of 8-10. On Tuesday, Northwest would face Rockhurst at home in a pulse-pounding game. Just when the game looked dire, sophomore Trey Morris would blast a 2-run home run in the bottom of the 8th inning, leading to the Bearcats winning by a total of 7-5. The Bearcats would lose the first of 3-game series versus Rogers State, as they would later split the doubleheader in the first game, ending in a loss of 3-8. In the second game, the Bearcats would record a game-high 17 hits in a winning effort of 11-9. After the Bearcats evened the all-time series against Rogers State, we figured it was fitting to understand what it takes to be an MIAA second baseman. Take it away, Zach.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Do You Have What It Takes? A segment where we answer that spur-of-the-moment question when you look at the TV and say, yeah, I can do that. In this episode, I want to ask you if you have what it takes to be an MIAA space snatcher, also known as the second baseman. The second baseman is nothing to sleep on in the MIAA. If you want to be one, make sure you have these skills. You will need to have excellent coordination with the shortstop for double plays. Make sure you have that accurate toss for those 2 crucial outs. Placement of tags on stealing runners from first is a must-have, as you will be the one who will be taking the throw from the catcher 90% of the time. Lastly, the base snatcher wouldn't be itself without taking a few bags on steals. Leadoffs, as well as running and sliding control, will give you MIAA certification. Now, those were what you want to do to be MIAA second base worthy. But what do you not want to do? Not being a proper cutoff man will get you slowly kicked off the MIAA diamond. How about bobbling the throw from the catcher, which will make you an untrustworthy fielder? Lastly, keep it simple. Flashy plays are cool and will give you the awesome highlights, but just focus on making the throw rather than the highlight. But don't take those tips from me. Take a look at this hypothetical where we see Illinois State versus Vanderbilt to give you these tips. In this first clip, Illinois State's second baseman Shaden Kubo shows you what great tag placement looks like. In this play, it's the bottom of the second and the runner sprints to second on the pitcher's delivery. With the throw from the catcher being slightly off course, Kubo shows an amazing swing where his body turns 180 degrees with his hand landing straight on the runner's hip for what would be an out but would be overturned for a call safe. Now in this second clip, Vanderbilt's second baseman Jaden Davis will show you amazing ground ball control. At the top of the 6th, Jaden receives a hard hit grounder which he will take and shift his body to the shortstop after taking the ball straight to the chest. Once he has it under control, he lobs it to the shortstop, leading to a double play and will lead to the middle of the 6th inning. Now those were some amazing second basemen, and there are plenty more where they came from here in the MIAA. Do you think you can hang with them here in the MIAA? Comment down below and tell us here at Bearcat Update if you have what it takes. That's all the time we have for today. I'll see you here next week where we will see if we have what it takes to be an MIAA third baseman. Bringing it back to you, Jason.
Thanks, Zach. Just like on previous episodes this season on Bearcat Update, we mentioned we have unprecedented access to the cheer team. Our reporter Jake Walker happens to be a part of the team, meaning we get to meet his teammates one by one. Take it away, Jake.
Welcome back to Meet the Cheer Team. This week, we're going back to the all-girls side of the team and looking at one of our freshmen.
Hi, my name is Sailor Bodenhausen. I am a freshman here at Northwest, and my major is sports medicine.
Sailor is one of the best examples of someone who has been a part of the sport for the majority of her life.
I started cheer competitively whenever I was in 2nd grade and did it up until 6th grade. Then I took a break and did school sports until one of my old coaches from my previous years of cheer called me and she's like, hey, we need somebody to fill in for our competition this weekend, and it was a Thursday night. So I had to go in and relearn the entire routine. And I did that for a couple of years until high school, then decided I wanted to cheer at Northwest.
Despite her long history in the sport, Sailor's time as a cheerleader before college was spaced out, to say the least.
I actually did not do high school cheer. I played volleyball in high school and I ran track. I helped out my athletic trainer a lot, but I was still like taking classes, tumbling classes, and then coming to these clinics in order to get studying in, but it was a jump for sure. My body definitely took a toll the first couple weeks.
Even though collegiate cheer can take a toll on the body, Saylor is appreciative for every bump in the road, as well as every opportunity to grow in her skills and personal life.
I've grown a lot as an athlete, as a person, just what college has done to you, and I wouldn't change it for anything. I really enjoy tumbling. I love throwing tucks, doing any type of tumbling, steaming, running. It's one of my favorite things to do. I love trying new things, seeing how different things work, different people working together. Game days are fun. I just like having high energy, getting everybody pumped, kind of going out of my comfort zone.
Choosing cheer as a sport can take you through a lot of emotions, but Saylor went through it with a big smile and open arms.
I'd say just try it. Like, you never know if you will like it unless you try it. Do it for a year, my mom always says. If you do it for a year and decide you don't like it, well, I mean, you're never going to regret cheering. It was really helpful for me just to see familiar faces on campus. So it really is just an awesome opportunity.
That's all the time we have with the cheer team. We're going to send this one back over to your host. Take it away, Wiley.
Thanks, Jake. I'm Wiley Ray, and this is Cade Ricketts. Stick around to get an in-depth review of basketball's NCAA Tournament loss after falling to Minnesota State. We'll be right back.
KZLX is a student-run radio station where Northwest students have complete freedom during their shifts. KZLX also hosts many radio shows such as Nermageddon, Revive, Day-to-Day Picks, and more. To learn more, visit kzlxfm.com.
Hey guys, I have the new season of Gen 2.
Yeah! Get over here, let's check it out!
Oh, you always gotta blow these things out. Alrighty guys, gather around.
Welcome back to Bearcat Update with the X. I'm Wiley Ray, and alongside me, as always, is Cade Ricketts. And today, we're going to be talking about the Bearcats' last second loss to Minnesota State and what's next for the Bearcats. And the question that's been the frenzy on campus, what is next for head coach Ben McCollum? Cade, Bearcats fell to the Mavericks on a literal last second shot last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, just heartbreaking loss in the Sweet 16 for the Bearcats. Obviously not what the goal was, but you know, it was just kind of a sloppy game for both teams, for Minnesota State and for the Bearcats. Northwest shot 19 for 52, 2 for 19 from the three-point line. Just could never quite get it going from range. On the flip side of that, the Mavericks also shot a really sloppy 18 for 50, 3 for 24 from the three-point line. So I don't know if it was just the last two games and these teams kind of getting tired through the tournament and they both just kind of hit that stage at the same point, but neither team really got it going.
Yeah, when you really look at these two teams, you kind of look at the halves when you break it down. Bearcats led by 8 at the half, 25-17, and then when you look at the second half, Minnesota State won that half 26-17. And so the only thing that really stopped that was that 1 point being the 26th point for the Mavericks in that one. But when you look at how the players performed, 2 Bearcats in double digits with Daniel Abreu at 17 and then Bennett Sturts with 12, and then just kind of looking at these two where you look at Wes Dreamer, who really didn't have a lot of action in the game, and he averages 18 points a game, and Bennett averaging 15 kind of shined in that one.
Yeah, I mean, and you just got to give props to Minnesota State's defense. I mean, defense was there for both teams, but yeah, anytime you can hold Wes under his average, who usually leads this team in scoring most games when he's healthy, so it's definitely a flip for us. But, you know, Minnesota State averages 84.5 points per game. They only got, like we said, 43. And then us on the flip side, 73 points per game, only getting 42. Neither one of these teams really hit their averages at all.
Yeah, when you look at this one, the Bearcats, 29-5 to end the season, 20-2 in the MIAA, and as the season ends, one of the biggest questions is where is Coach McCollum going to go? And Coach Ben McCollum is a bona fide legend here in Bearcat history, and our producer is going to take us through the potential outlook for McCollum as we navigate the offseason. Take it away, Killian.
The Bearcats concluded their 14th season under the leadership of head coach Ben McCollum. While the Sweet 16 loss was far earlier than many had anticipated, it was another strong season. After the game-winning buzzer beater sent the Bearcats home, questions loomed not only about the future of the team, but most importantly the future of the Bearcats' legendary head coach.
He drains it. It's his first field goal of the game, and it's a walk-off win for
Rumors
Minnesota
began
State.
even before Northwest tipped off its season at St. Joseph against Northern State. The four-time national champion has been fighting rumors he's headed Division I for a few years at this point, but this summer, McCollum seemed poised to jump from the MIAA to the Power 5. The University of West Virginia dealt with plenty of adversity as their legendary head coach Bob Huggins resigned after a DUI arrest in June. This left West Virginia searching for a head coach to fill the void. West Virginia's athletic director, Ren Baker, has worked with McCollum in the past, serving as the athletic director at Northwest. The two worked together for 4 years, and in the time Baker's been at West Virginia, we've seen McCollum build a dynasty. West Virginia suffered the loss of top recruits and was in free fall, culminating in a 9-22 season that left them with more questions than answers. Due to McCollum's age, he is considered a great option for the future. While McCollum didn't get the job in June, he is considered a top candidate to take West Virginia in a new direction. If this is it for McCollum at Northwest, then it has been one heck of a ride. 4 national championships, 7 MIAA championships, and a 394-91 record. Ending this season as MIAA champions and the announcement that he will be inducted into the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. Bearcat Update wishes him the best as he traverses through the next part of his legendary career.
Thank you, Killian. And, Cade, as we went through that pack and we're just kind of sitting here discussing a little bit about that coaching carousel and, what's next for Ben McCollum, where do you think he might land?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a tough question when you look at these coaches. I mean, they're always going to be moving around, but I really like Missouri State. That's a job that's opened up, and I think would be a great fit for McCollum, if not West Virginia. And I think the only reason it would be Missouri State over West Virginia is purely from the fact you don't see a lot of these Division II coaches just make the jump to a Power 5 school. So just going to the Missouri Valley Conference, kind of getting his foot in the door in a Division I school like Missouri State would be perfect for him. It's in his backyard. He knows the recruiting here. He knows the connections in Missouri. I think Missouri State would be a great fit for him.
I agree with you 100%. With Missouri State, it's a Missouri Valley Conference school who's kind of been in that middle of the pack range, undershined by Drake and Indiana State. But when you look at the in-state team, it's not a far drive from Maryville. And, another team that really is kind of brought into that picture is Oklahoma State, a Big 12 Power 5 school like we talked about. Big 12 right now is one of the best basketball conferences in men's Division I. But when you look at Oklahoma State, they're sitting in that lower of the pack, kind of trying to find their footing. And with Ben McCollum, who doesn't even have 100 losses as a coach at Northwest, that's definitely a way to start up your program.
Yeah, 100%. Anytime a coach has got almost 400 wins and under 100 losses, I mean, it's pretty impressive. And I think he's deserving of a Power 5 job. I think just because we haven't seen it in the past doesn't mean it's not possible. And that's why the West Virginia would be possible. Or like you said, Oklahoma State would be possible. Obviously, Gundy, he has the football team, is always really competitive. I think McCollum would be a great experienced coach to bring in to also get their basketball kind of to the level of the football team at Oklahoma State.
And as we talk about what's next in the coaching carousel for Ben McCollum, let's take a look at, who might be the next West Dreamer or Trevor Hudgens or, a playmaker for the Bearcats. And right now, when you just kind of look at the stats-wise, Bennett Sturtz and Mitch Muscari and Daniel Abreu and even Isaiah Jackson, all 4 of those guys put their name in the mix of the guys who can fill those shoes of Dreamer and Hudgens.
Yeah, I mean, obviously losing Wes is such a huge just loss to this team. He's been such a detrimental part to our offensive production, but for me, it's Bennett Sturtz who I think can step up and be that guy coming off of his best season, shooting almost 50% from the field, averaging 15 points per game. I think they're going to run the offense through Sturtz next year, and I'd be excited to see it.
Yeah, when you look at Bennett Sturtz averaging 15 points a game and you compare him to kind of how Wes Dreamer was this season, these two players were fighting for the most points a game between these two Bearcats. And another player to really look for is Daniel Abreu at the big man position. He really stepped up in the postseason, and that's one thing you love to see with Northwest is seeing them use that big boy mentality, that post game that a lot of people don't use anymore.
Yeah, absolutely, Wiley.
When you look at how these teams are, Cade, it really is going to set a big thing for the Bearcats. But that's all the time we got for Bearcat Update with the X. I'm Wiley Ray. Once again, alongside me is Cade Ricketts. We'll send it back to Jason in the studio. Take it away, Jason.
Thank you all. That's all the time we have for Bearcat Update this week. I'm your host, Jason Holland, and you're watching Bearcat Update, the provider of complete coverage of Northwest sports. We are live every Sunday at 1:15, and you can find us on YouTube at KNWT TV. As well as Bearcat Update, you can also catch all of KNWT TV's other content. That being said, we'll see you next week.